Watching Reese Olson with a surgeon-like start right here. Nice. Yeah, just carving it up. Got Ozuna to look really foolish on that swing there. And Tigers are up 1-0 right now, bottom of the sixth. We're going to be doing more Tiger stuff the first half hour of the show as the Tigers are opening up a 3-game series against the Braves. And just coming off a series where they lost 2 out of 3 against Houston, where the offense did come alive Saturday. We'll talk about that and much more. I'm Rogelio Castillo alongside Miss Chris Brown and Brandon. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or listen to the podcast, and on X over at Tigers ML Report. So please, we now hit 15.8. So you guys listened last week and responded very well. So now getting that 16,000 followers on Twitter. You know, Twitter just changed rules where now apparently you can't see your likes or some stupid Elon Musk random change where he was drunk and maybe I don't know what the hell Elon Musk does half the time, but
ketamine.
Yeah, was it a keyhole then? Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Isn't all that supposed to make you cooler?
No, it's not working. Try
the microdosing instead or something. I don't know.
Do mushrooms. Mushrooms are good. Or use Magic Mind.
That dude has been nothing but a pestilence in my experience.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the cars or whatever else, but it's just like, hey man, ever since he took over, it's been just straight downhill. And there's a lot, like there's some sites that they used to be good, and he just keeps putting at that. So, but anyway. Before we get to all that, I want to mention our sponsors over our friends at Bet Online. They're the number one source for the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals. As the Edmonton Oilers won a game, and they're making it a series. Every stat, matchup, and live odds. Although Boston, I think, is going to win the finals. Is Boston? I don't even know where the NBA Finals are at, to be honest with you. I haven't really been paying attention to that. But while the games are being played, while the game is over, head out to our online casino or their online casino and get on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with over 150 slots. Play the slots. Head to our website today and get in on all the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, the game starts here. Also want to give a tip of the cap to Mr. John Klaus, who I talked to earlier. His grandfather says hello to everybody on the podcast. So, nice.
A couple words for him today. We were talking about bowling earlier too, because he was they call them. He was telling us earlier about him being kind of like the pops in a little bit, and he coached a lot of people in bowling. So it was pretty cool to talk to him a little bit. We talked a little bit shop. So that was it was really nice to hear from him. So
yeah, all the best to the Klaus family for sure. Yep.
Keeping it classy. So the Tigers, right now, the Tigers are in a very weird stretch right now where they're playing high quality opponents and they're providing entertaining baseball right now. I mean, they're on 3 games under 500 against the Braves team, who should be, in a lot of people's opinions, better than what the record indicates. But the Tigers lucked out on Saturday. Didn't have to face Justin Verlander, who was scratched due to neck stiffness, correct? Is that what it was?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. We were out of West Michigan on Saturday. We'll recap that. And then, funny, because the jokes were, well, they're going to let all the offense out Saturday and then come back and no hit and get no hit, or the offense is going to struggle on Sunday. And almost got a win. And it was actually pretty spot on against really. Maeda, I hate saying that word. He battled through the start. He really fought his way through, but
he didn't. He hasn't looked comfortable for 1 minute in a Tigers uniform. And and that, like physically looked comfortable. Like, he's out there, stretching the hips and the shoulders and the back the whole time. Just not looking sharp in that, obviously he's got to have, precision fastball command to be Kenta Maeda. And we haven't really seen too much of it. He was, he settled into that outing after the second inning, but it was already 4-0. It's like, well, the next 3 innings were pretty good, but yeah, I know he's got to be able to get strike one, by locating all 3 of those pitches around the edges and get ahead of people. Because if he can't do that, yeah, it's it turns into just contact theater. Are they going to hit the ball at somebody or not? So. But yeah, so he hasn't been very impressive. Overall, the Tigers played the Astros just fine. They just didn't get any hits. Skubal got ambushed in about 4 batters in the space of about 2 minutes. Other than that, pitched like Tarek Skubal usually does. And here we are. This is the, like we keep talking about, this is the state of a 500 team where some days you're like, I can see it. It's starting to come. And then other days you're like, Jesus, we're so far away. So close and so far away. That's the article I'm writing right now.
So close that, yeah, it sounds like it sounds like a Dire Straits song.
Yeah, or a YouTube.
Yeah,
it's a YouTube 1, so close, so far away, or something.
Yeah,
like I don't know,
something like that. But Houston Astros, by the way, let go of Jose Abreu, and so much of him. He's just been his bat struggling right now. He's 37 years old, looking for a place to play. So that was something that happened, I believe, before the game on Friday, right? I believe that's what it was.
Yep. Yeah.
And so. But yeah, if you can't produce, after a while, when you have a guy like Jordan Alvarez, you can go away with Singleton batting 217 and strikeout or home run, definitely get away with it. So, yeah. But overall, it was Saturday's game. I really want to talk about Saturday's game because Saturday's game was just a bunch of players getting off the schneid a little bit. Riley Green, etc. It was like most RBIs in one game. I believe it was before, or there was a period of time where we were driving in the car listening to Greg Anya on the call, and it was like I think it was between Lansing and almost to West, like the heart of 96, right, Chris? Where it was like the stretch of it.
Yeah, I think we got from Lansing halfway to Grand Rapids, and it was still the top of the second inning.
Yeah,
it was.
That was a long inning. Yeah.
I think they put 12 men to the plate, I think, that inning. And yeah, it was that was fun. It's fun. They need more of those. And then it's just frustrating to have that offensive explosion. You say, hey, I can see it with this team. And like Brandon said, and then, nothing. The other 2 games. It's that's what's, I think, most frustrating to fans, right? It's like some days it seems like they can hit, and then most days it seems like they can't. And it's hard to figure why.
Yeah, obviously a lot of it has to do with the starting pitcher each day. We know this. Other teams, watch Tarek Skubal or Reese Olson or Jack Flaherty carve their team up and are like, my God, our team can't hit either. There's just a lot of not hitting going on. There's a lot, I keep thinking Tarek Skubal's having maybe the greatest season I've ever seen. And then I keep looking around going oh no, Shoto Imanaga's having an amazing season. Freed is having a good season. All these people are having really good seasons. There's a lot of kick-ass pitching around the league at this point. So yeah, some of it's that, and some of it's just that, they just don't have much lineup balance. We've talked about this before too. They just don't have a right-handed bat that anyone is scared of, really. Canna's solid and Vealing is solid and has contributed decently, but you're supposed to have Spencer Torkelson scaring the heck out of people on that side of the plate, and Riley Green on the other side, and Kerry Carpenter. So there we go.
Come on. Oh,
what's
sorry.
that?
No, I thought.
You're watching the game.
Yeah, I'm watching the game. If you have my
setup,
I can't show the setup I have in here because I'll get copyright. But Dude's even making it smiling.
Yeah, it was a leadoff double to Austin Riley, and it sounded like a sharp fly out to left field, 382 feet, so probably very close to being a 2-run homer, huh?
I just realized that I can do this.
We've gotten very good at interpreting the game day data. I'll tell you that. Yeah. I can almost tell what happened in the game pretty well at this point. Just look at the launch angle. Where did this go? How hard does it hit?
Yeah, well, we can do this actually. We can actually do this and not get in trouble. All right, there you go.
You got a man on. Got a man on third.
Yep.
Yeah, Chris, look.
Was that? So this is the next. Did Will Vest get it out without allowing that man on third to score?
Yes.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, Sean Murphy just grounded out to Urshela, and so there's
this
two
is
outs.
actually, and this is actually ahead of the TV feed too, right here. The feed
it's ahead of my phone.
Now they're going to shut us down now.
Yeah, this thing I've seen this at the ballpark being used. It's a pretty cool setup they have. And there's also a way to, if you want to, you can even watch the game. There's another way to go watch a game where it's
the stick figures.
Yeah, figures, but it's kind of creepy. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of
it cracks me up when they're like, I still have the one from a couple of years ago when Miggy had a walk-off hit and then he floated off to space.
Yeah, where it's tracking all the players in the upper left. Yeah, it is funny too, because when like a mound visit happens for a second, like you just like, what is happening? Like everyone's coming together in the infield. This is weird. And then, mound visit.
I wonder if it tracks streakers. I haven't seen.
Oh, we haven't tested it yet. I don't know.
I mean,
I'm trying to remember
how to do this for science.
Yeah, we'll have to do it for science. I'm trying to remember how to bring it up again, but
do all the players' uniforms have like a little motion capture tag in it or something so that they know where they are? I don't know.
Little Reggie Jackson beacon from Naked Gun.
Because the umpires aren't on there, they don't show up. So I guess a streaker probably wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Maybe you just see a flash in the outfield from the taser.
Some kind of flash.
Yeah. Everybody likes that. Yeah, exactly.
No, but this is a series where they're catching the Braves at a good time too.
Yeah,
and I think there's a situation where the Tigers can at least maybe grab one here and
nope.
No.
Oh, what happened?
We'll find
play
out.
Runs.
Let's see here. Oh, that looks like a single to the right.
This is the most annoying way to watch a game.
God damn it! Son of a bitch.
Yeah. Well, Reese Olson, he doesn't deserve wins. He's been a bad man. So
yeah,
the slider right in the heart of the plate.
Yeah, he can't come home.
Go for it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Will Vest has, probably been their best reliever for the past 6 weeks too. So going to him makes plenty of sense here. But one swing, it is still a good team. I mean, you're talking, obviously they're missing Spencer Strider and they're missing Ronald Acuna Jr. So, and then they're missing Michael Harris. So they're kind of beat up. The injury train, I thought, was the key thing over the weekend because, in the back of my devious little mind, I still think if we could get a little help from the farm system, maybe everybody else just gets wrecked by injuries because it just starts happening. The wear and tear injuries start piling up around this time of the year. We had Mookie Betts get his hand fractured. What was it? Yoshinobu Yamamoto's got a triceps or something's wrong with him. I don't know. He's out. So there's been a lot of players going down with injury. A lot of good players just in the last couple of days. Been kind of
and the same thing with in the minor leagues too. In the Tigers minor league system has been getting devastated by injuries too. And luckily for the Tigers, they have the White Sox coming up after this when they come home, and then they have the Phillies. So it's just a small reprieve before they take on the best team in baseball. But the one thing, yeah, you're right though. A lot of the wear and tear, Brandon, you're talking about. There's also the amount of pitching injuries across the board too. I think I was reading the Brewers rotation's been taking a hit, or has been. I think the Cubs too. Yeah. Every team has seemed to have some sort of, except for the Pirates. The Pirates seem to continue to march along pretty well. So
they're the team that has the young guys coming up. Whereas the Astros have had Christian Javier. I think Framber Valdez is hurt, if I'm not mistaken. At least two of their starters are down. So yeah, there's quite a bit of injuries. Someone just pointed out in here the Tigers have 15 blown saves, deadly ninja bees on point as usual. We keep talking about the offense, but I just want to keep circling back to the fact that they built a shit bullpen, unfortunately. Pardon my language. It just hasn't worked this year, and they haven't been able to sort out, any of the sort of middle guys like Shelby Miller, Andrew Chafin. Will Vest has been okay. Jason Foley had his run and then kind of came back to earth. And, Bo Brisky's been effective, but I don't want to see Bo Brisky pitching the eighth inning with, slim leads and that kind of thing. So, that's turning out oddly to be the fatal flaw, even though, we're obviously thinking about the offense above everything else. They'd probably have another 5 or 6 wins if they had one really good reliever to add into the mix back there. Tyler Holton's getting it going at least, which has been helpful, but that's really been the Achilles heel the last month.
Yeah, it's kind of funny if you imagine the Oakland A's bullpen on the Tigers, you go, okay, well, that's you get Ursag and Miller at the back end, and a couple other interesting arms that things might be different, but
and that's something to talk about because we haven't, we kind of figured that the bullpen I thought would be solid, and then they'd get some help, as things went along. But Tyler Madison blown elbow, Wilmer Flores shoulder injury hasn't been very good anyway.
Yeah.
Alex Lang's kind of flamed out. So, and they haven't decided to convert anybody. They haven't decided to convert Kiter or anybody. So,
apparently he's in a cast. There's been someone who was talking about this. Yeah, somebody was saying Tigers Turmoil was telling me that his source, which has been correct times, allegedly he's in a cast.
Well, I went back and watched that game where he came out, and he threw a pitch and then was like immediately just like called them out and just left them out. Like didn't even debate. He was like, nope, something's wrong. So
So Brady, I know you got a couple questions and we'll get to them shortly because the Trey Cruz question we'll get to shortly, but the Flores is still out with injury. Pacheco's injury also has been.
We were poking around a little bit, but nobody would tell us when we were out on West Michigan. But
he got 60-day, right?
Yeah, he and Andrew Jenkins both got put on a 60-day. A bunch of people did.
Yeah,
it was just like 60-day day, but unfortunate because he was a guy that was still kind of struggling this year, but any missed time is not going to help for him for sure.
Yeah, and especially when it was if it was going to come together, that was probably like the beginning of it. So. I don't know.
You know what, Brandon, you were talking about arms being converted. One thing that when we get to Toledo a little later, but to me, what is interesting so far is that you're still seeing Ty Madden going out there as a starter. I mean, the other day he pitched that 3-inning 9 strikeout, but I think it's more clear to me, like Mark Hanna, nice double off the left field, to left field. I'm not going to try to look into it, but it seems like that. I'm surprised the Tigers haven't tried to do anything with that. So Brady's confirming he was at Fifth 30. Saw him in an isolated cast. Okay, so but anyway, I'm surprised they haven't tried to do anything with Ty Madden as of yet, because I mean, allegedly too, there's the Brant Hurler experience still hasn't started yet either. And again, two guys who I think could help out the Tigers in a short period of time, at least as a Band-Aid.
Yeah, they just don't seem to be. I mean, in any way, the Tigers don't seem to be showing any urgency at all to really do anything. They're just kind of playing it out as they drew it up, and haven't made any adjustments. I don't know. The whole thing is making me somewhat uncomfortable. I know not to expect moves until July and stuff, but it just feels like there's just like this sucking passivity going on beneath the surface, where everybody's just like, it's just a free year, bro. We'll see how it goes. We're gonna bring some people up and play them and kind of see how it goes.
Yeah, that was I tweeted out that the Tigers can't keep starting Kenta Maeda if they have any intention of being competitive. And 99% of the comments I got were that they don't intend to be competitive. And I was like, well, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, I'm trying to say this. Like, yes, if this is, in any way, a team that wants to even compete for a wild card spot, they need to do something about that. And I don't know exactly what it would be. Like you said earlier, Maeda hasn't looked right all year long. It's in the stats. His strikeout rate's down like 3 per 9 over his career averages. The home runs are up, the walks are up. He's just not comfortable. And I don't know if that, you can put him in the bullpen, you IL him. I've often thought about turning Holton into a starter. But he's, has been so good out of the bullpen that you don't want to screw that up. But he's another guy that if you don't want Montero, you don't want Manning, you just give him a shot. He used to start, but I don't know.
It's just kind of classic that like they don't want to do anything long term, but then they signed Maeda for a 2-year deal, and here we are. It's like we've got him and Javi, and they're gonna drag them both out now as long as possible, probably too. And I don't know, maybe Kenta's fine. Maybe I mean, I've seen this happen with him before, where there's like a long couple months where he's like injured, and then he pitches a couple games and he's okay, but not as good. And it goes back and forth like that. And then he rips off like 2 months where he's got a 3 ERA and then goes back on IL. I mean, this is kind of like the MO with him at this point in his career. He is 36 or 7. So I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get that, but I also don't really want to sit around waiting to find out. I want to see Montero. I want to see Madden, starting to come up. And we've talked about this subject quite a bit, but just the odd conditions at AAA now, with the automated strike system, I just start to wonder like how if it's good or bad to leave your pitchers there too long. Because if you're waiting for them to just not walk anybody, it's probably not going to happen. It's you're kind of putting them, in a tough situation where they have to learn how to just like pitch 100% in the zone. And, that tells you something in its own right. But yeah, I don't know. I really wish they had just done this at AA and left it there. It's kind of weird to have the conditions change so much. And then you have to go to the major leagues and conditions are completely different again.
Well, it's even weird seeing it like at a high A level. I mean, the other night that was one of the worst umps I've seen in a long time, where the point where Josh Crouch got kicked out for literally just muttering under his breath. That's the only thing I could think of. That was the only thing I could think of. And you would think at that level it would be appropriate to have that, but no, it makes zero sense to me. And if you look at some of an article I've been interested in doing for a while is kind of looking at how it's changed some of the numbers with as far as like just even pitch counts go. So I'd be curious to see how many times where, because of the extra wasted pitch or the wasted pitches, but how much more does it play a factor into pitches thrown versus, how many more pitches are thrown per inning? So
yeah, it's tricky. Caleb Badu strikes out. It's going to be Parker Meadows' time in a minute. And I don't know if that's going to go that much better. But I want to go to Samuel McLean here. The problem I have is that even though building a team takes time and you want to do it properly, if you're within earshot of a wild card, how can you tell your fan base you're not trying? And that's it. It's like what there needs to be a couple of little solutions that could be found. I mean, I hate to say this because I just know it's not going to happen. But they can go trade for Paul DeJong and a reliever without really giving up that much at all, and still trade Jack Flaherty, and then you just call up Job or Madden or Montero or whoever to plug in. And just see where that takes you. But they just don't seem to want to solve any problems externally at all. And it's, it's only year 2, but it's becoming kind of glaring when you look at how little they've actually got done. And a couple of the things that they've sort of hamstrung the organization with, there've been good moves, but, Maeda's not turning out to be a good move. And, they cut Willie, they cut Jamer. We are all fine with that because we thought they'd go get better players, but they didn't. So, I don't know. Right about this point, I don't think anybody's really in love with the front office anymore, and the bloom is off the rose now.
No, I mean, this is right here with 3 rookies in the lineup says every night. Well, didn't we want this? Didn't we want the Tigers to play their young players? So there you go. I mean, you can't. This is what I wanted to see and see what they have. What they have with what players they do have, and so it is very the hardest pill I have to swallow. And Chris, let me ask you this question. Do you see a lack of creativity even on the waiver wire? It seems like even on the waiver wire, like they're not, it just seems like there's lack of creativity. I don't know about you, but that's where I'm at with it right now.
I mean, that was my big complaint about the Avila front office is it felt like they never did anything that was unique or interesting. We've seen some of that from the Scott Harris front office. We saw them trade international pool money to get Blake Dickerson. It doesn't help the big league club. We saw him, spend for Eddie's Lanard. But there hasn't been a ton of creativity and certainly not a lot of trades. One of I think the hallmark of Dave Dombrowski was just making all sorts of trades, and most of them good. And with Scott Harris, we've had three trades. The Joe Jimenez trade, the Gregory Soto trade, and then Blake Hollub for Mark Hanna. I think that's it.
Yeah. And then Lorenzen for Hao-Yu Lee.
Oh, that's true. Lorenzen for Hao-Yu Lee. Yeah. But I mean, it's I don't know. I kind of feel like anybody can make those kind of trades, if that makes sense, that we're not really trying. So we'll take your young guys for our old guys, or take our young guy for your old guy. I'd like to see a creative trade in some capacity. I think like even teams like Arizona and Milwaukee last year, I want to say they both sold and bought at the deadline because they didn't really know what they were doing, but they kind of addressed one need and traded from strength and just something like that, right? Like the Tigers have 18 second basemen in their system right now. You could probably move one of them. I don't know. Do we want to hold on to every prospect we can, but you can go get, like you said, go get Paul DeYoung and a reliever or something like. Yeah. If I don't know, but
and even the small, even the small moves, are just not really in evidence with them. The kind of thing that's been creative is finding Janik Diaz. I think like signing Zach Lee and Thomas Bruce, like some of these undrafted free agents who started to pop in a camp. Like we're seeing a little bit more of that kind of thing. Like that's all well and good. But yeah, I mean, at the major league level, it seems like a good team finds a reliever basically every year, and the Tigers haven't found one this year. So that, that's one of those little details where you'd like to see them, either convert someone or figure something out in that regard. And then, yeah, I mean, I want them to play the rookies, but I also don't want, a gaping hole at first base and shortstop. And they could do some things, to shore things up with a right-handed stick without having to go trade for Pete Alonso. Although, please feel free. So yeah, I mean, early last year, I was breaking it all down with like Hinch's pinch hit options and like how it was all set up. Wrote this whole big article, and like there was kind of an obvious plan. Like you could kind of see how it all fit together. And this year, you don't see that quite as much either. I mean, Andy makes sense against lefties. I mean, you see kind of how it's supposed to work, but they also haven't. This doesn't feel like a composed lineup. It feels like there's a couple extra guys on it who are just there, who all kind of do the same thing. So I think. And Ozzie Albies. Was that a 2-run shot? No, one. Yeah, solo shot. Okay.
On
I saw. I think it's all a stat earlier. I think it was like
middle pitch.
It's a 39% of the Braves hits this year for extra base. Jesus effing Christ!
That's a fun way to watch it.
Yeah. Wow. Into the night sky. Beautiful.
Puta madre me parió con esto. Jode, man. All right. So by the way, just to give you a heads up. There's a reason why I don't watch the game during the podcast. I swear a lot. I swear a lot. Okay. Yeah. I do swear. And so I have to compose myself and become I'm a professional. I'm a professional podcaster. So I have to compose myself. But wow, that was a terrible pitch. As soon as I saw it go, it's like, wait, the home run, where is it? And I saw the pitch going out of his hand. I'm like, oh yeah, here it is. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Just a big blue dot popped up in the middle of the strike zone up, and I was like, "Oh no!"
As soon as you see him popping up, like by the way, I love how they pop up out of the bottle,
like ghosts.
Yeah,
coming to kill Patrick Swayze again.
If there's one trademark, like if you go back to, let's go back a little in time here a little bit, because we saw his son over the weekend, Randy Smith, who his son is Quinn Smith is over at West Michigan, really good kid. I really like that kid a lot. He's a really nice guy who remembers us from Erie, and anyway. There was one thing that each GM did that, although Randy Smith was one of the worst GMs of all time, he also was, he was only confined, but he could only do so much because the Tigers weren't allowing him to spend. At the time, Mike Ilitch wasn't really spending money because they were waiting for Comerica Park. That was the whole thing. So he did everything he could. He threw everything in the kitchen cupboard to get trades. And I mean, as much as this is not like, this is a prime example, but like there was times where he was able to flip players that were Damon Easley for Greg Gore. There was some trades there that were like unconventional, but it worked out. The Tigers had a second baseman locked up, an all-star second baseman that ended up working out for him. Chad Curtis, a little different story, but I mean, there's certain things that there's certain things that Randy Smith did every once in a while that he lucked out on and got it be a trade. Then the Browski era came. The Carlos Guillen, the Carlos, some trades that weren't so obvious, like some trades that weren't so obvious were, I'm going to stop that there. It got really loud there for no reason.
Yeah.
But there were some trades. So there's some trades like the Carlos Guillen trade, for example. That was a guy who was coming off injuries. Who knew that was going to be beneficial for the Tigers? But there's little moves in there. The Nate Robinson pickup. That guy was a serviceable starter. There's certain things that worked out under Nebraska that were low key.
Yeah, Ordonez was a risk. He
was huge risk. Yeah. I mean, remember he had to go to Europe. They had his knee examined, and then the whole Daily Freep and Detroit News at the time were thinking this was a bad idea. Yeah. During the Avila period, we didn't. All of a sudden, we started seeing the opposite of that a little bit.
Well, I think we talked about that not too long ago. Is that what's kind of remarkable is Ordonez had that microfracture surgery, which suddenly became all the rage for like 3 or 4 years, and particularly in the NBA. Yeah. And then it turned out that it didn't work for anybody.
Yeah,
except Ordonez.
Yeah. The only one because I remember Amari Starmeyer had the same surgery, and he was never the same player. He lost all the explosiveness that made him.
Same with Chris Webber had it. Like a bunch of NBA, like
Yeah.
Kenyon Martin, I think had it. All these guys who could jump, and then suddenly they came back and they're playing like old men.
Whereas Victor Martinez didn't need to jump, and so it worked for him too. You know,
Yes.
at least for a while, had the
Yeah.
best year of his career, I think, in 2014. So
Sean,
that's true, though. You don't hear about that surgery anymore, and
Yeah.
now they're doing hydrodissection, and I can't even tell what that is.
it sounds like it sounds like hydrodissection sounds like something you do to your teeth, like
It's a
like
water
the
break.
hydro, like like a
Sounds
water,
like you got the water break in there, yeah.
yeah.
And maybe that is what it is. They're just blasting the scar tissue with water. I don't know.
Sean, look, Villajoy there's some. I'll give him a little bit of credit. Sparky Anderson, I blame Sparky Anderson a little bit with Villajoy because Sparky didn't want to play the kids. There was a lot. That's why he left.
Well, he also
felt
played
like
Tom Monahan too.
Yeah, Tom Monahan was also. And you think Mike Ilitch was cheap? Holy crap! Tom Monahan was the king of cheap. I mean, like, they barely had enough money to do anything. So I don't blame Villajoy there. He built the farm system. He built the core of the '84 team along with. I mean, he was the farm director when they had those great drafts. So that guy gets a golden ticket for the rest of his life. I mean, but Sparky Anderson was kind of impatient with the prospects. I mean, if they weren't working out, I mean, you went after Darnell Cole twice.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Anyway, but that one's debated. But I don't know. You don't see it right now. As of right now, I mean, in Andy Baez, you can sit there and say, okay, that's a creative signing that has worked out. There's a couple of guys that are still on the fringe of that, but I don't know. There's other organizations, and we saw the Saturday, prime example of this, the Brewers.
Yeah.
Wisconsin had 4 or 5 guys that were just a lot of they had long at bats too. That was another thing I noticed on Saturday's game against the Whitecaps. The Whitecaps had 4 or 5 hitters that were under 170, I believe it was, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And we'll get to more about Jaden Ham's start, but the Timber Rattlers had guys that were just, they had a shortstop prospect, Venezuela, I believe it was Venezuelan. They had a couple guys that could just tether the ball, and it was just a very good team. But and Chris was giving me the lowdown on how well the Brewers have been able to make hitters better and make, add velocity to pitchers and everything. And we're seeing that with the Tigers on the pitching side of things. But the hitting thing is just, man.
And they went and got Kenny Graham, and that seemed like a great idea at the time to me. For that very reason, you saw like a lot of their young hitters doing well, and that's only continued. So apparently, he wasn't the locus of the hitting instruction there, at least not quite like we hoped. But I mean, the Tigers have done better, I think, certainly, but they were so bad. It's it's kind of hard to compare and say exactly like how much better they've gotten in terms of hitting when you're still watching a couple of key guys not getting it together. We're getting the Joe Jimenez experience, I see.
Yeah.
All right.
Flint Rap Daily says, my idea is to make this team successful. Stop settling for 70, 80 wins. Trade Scooble, trade Flaherty, DFA, Baez, McKinstry, and Kyler. Trade everybody over 27 the value and play for 2027. Call up Young. I wish it was that easy. He continues Montero, Madden, Navigado, more every day, more everybody running up a level. Get the best college bats early in the draft. Because we have some good pitchers and we can find them later on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, some of that, sure, but Navigado, you can just forget about. Just stop. God.
Let me
just say, if Navigado was ever going to be called up, it would have been last week. It's just not going to happen, I don't think. So,
is the fan base really wanting another like full on rebuild? Like,
I don't think so.
I don't
think they are.
I feel like, I mean, I get it, and sometimes you do have to make big trades. We remember the kind of golden era aughts and teens of the Tigers, but it really didn't get very good until they traded Curtis Granderson for Max Scherzer and Austin Jackson. Like they're competing. They made it in 2006 and competed in 7 and 9. But then they didn't, it was getting Austin Jackson to be your center fielder, getting Max Scherzer as that second, power arm, and then trading for Anibal Sanchez and Doug Fister and all that stuff. Like, sometimes you have to trade good players to get better, but that team was also, I think, farther along than this team. They still had Verlander, they had Cabrera,
and that team in a lot of ways was also much more poorly constructed. Like there was no speed. Outside of Austin and maybe whatever random person was on the bench, Quentin Berry or whoever. You know, it was fairly heavily right-handed. There was a lot of things that they could have done more efficiently without even needing to make those big trades. And I continue to think that that's probably why this didn't work out back then. There were just too many, you know, too many elements where they just kept. Didi was just like, I'm just going to keep adding good players, and that's good to a point, but it also wasn't very well composed as far as you know, the bullpen, obviously, never having any backups, you know, not really having very good defensive outfield, so you're giving up extra base hits more. You know, there's so many different ways to construct a baseball team, and the Tigers don't need to sell everything off. They don't need to tear it all down. If they had a bullpen and like an average bat at first base right now, we'd be in it. You know, we'd be probably right there with the Twins. And, you know, so we don't need to get too crazy. And there's probably no point even thinking like that, because it's, you know, it just does not at all seem to be the MO for this front office where they're going to go crazy. You know, they're going to trade Jack Flaherty. Maybe they'll flip a reliever or find someone to give us like a spec arm for Baду, or, you know, whatever. But it's not going to be, you know, outside of Flaherty, I don't think there's going to be anything too eye popping, unfortunately.
So, by the way, I like this guy's name. This guy on Twitter at Brookins Institution. That's a sweet name. He uses a picture of the former Tiger and Erie Seawolf manager, by the way, Tommy Brookins. Yeah. And no, seriously, I can't get over how cool that name is. Brookins Institution. Hey, gentlemen, what's up, Chris?
He's been around for a while.
Yeah. How much has Job's missed time affected his timeline to the bigs, you think? Is he late the next couple starts? You think he's right back on track, Detroit, sooner than later? And by the way, if you do want to donate to the website, because somebody mentioned this earlier that, like, well, actually it was John. He's like, oh, it looks like you guys are not getting a lot of donations. Well, there's a PayPal link right there on the bottom. It goes a long way. Everything goes back to the website, goes into the Chris or studio restorations that are going on right now in Studio West over there. Yeah. And then for gas and all that stuff too. So, but anyway, he was the Lord of Drip. But no, that's a good question. I think we actually had a fan ask us the other day on Saturday. I think that he's going to end the season in Toledo, possibly, and then, you know, he's starting tomorrow for West Michigan. We'll get to that a little later, and I think he's spent some time in Erie. Then I think depends on what happens with Montero or Madden, that you can see him end the season in Toledo, and then maybe get a shot at the rotation at the beginning of the year next year.
Yeah, I think that the injury might have actually helped them a little bit, because I don't know that they wanted to bring Job up to the big leagues this year, and there's a good chance that he would have kind of been forcing their hand by this time. I didn't think he was going to be in Erie much longer, the way he had started to pitch down there. We talked about it before. It was something like 33 consecutive batters without a hit or something like that, you know, a couple walks. I'm curious to see what they do with him tomorrow. He's got a rehab start tomorrow in West Michigan. I'm wondering if they let him go more than 2 or 3 innings. I
think we both know that they won't, right?
Yeah, so I'm thinking 3 innings tops, depending. It may be like 45 pitches, 3 innings, whatever you can do. Yeah. And then they'll give him another 2 starts or whatever, then up to Erie. And then, probably in Erie for most of the year, I guess now. And unless he just comes back and is, you know, absolutely dominant, I think he's probably going to be a little bit rusty. And they'll get up to Toledo by the end of the year. And then it wouldn't shock me if they pull him aside before next year. Maybe talk to him about one of those Colt Keith extensions where they, you know, they get him for $14 million for 12 years or something like that. And
should have talked to him right now while he was injured.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe they are, but
yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say that Job is going to come back and probably be fine within like 3 or 4 starts. Like, I expect by the All-Star break, he looks major league ready. And they will probably just send him to Toledo and stash him there the rest of the year. I think you guys are probably right. It does kind of depend. Yeah, like when they trade Flaherty, like, do they have someone that they can call up? My personal feeling, and I'm going to end up yelling at them about this probably, is that if a pitcher is ready to pitch in the major league, you need to do that. Something that is going on with this front office is they act like, you know, the timetables all have to align, bro. You know, we're trying to set this all up down the road. And it's like, no, you have, you know, half of the team right now. You know, you've got an outfield. You've got a second baseman, in my opinion. You've got 2 decent catchers. You've got a pretty good rotation, minus, you know, whoever the 5th guy is. And again, if you had a bullpen, we might be in this thing. And I don't want to sell the farm. I want to keep, building. I want to give Scott Harris time to build the organization, the system his way on the one end. But that doesn't evade the responsibility of that when you have any kind of a solid team, you should be trying to find a few small moves around the margins and at least give them a chance. And I don't know if they're going to do that or not, but yeah, like stashing Job to just pitch at Toledo is going to just infuriate me. There's just no reason for him to be there for very long. You want to get him some experience, pitching through traffic and having some long innings and some problems. I think that makes good sense to me. But other than that, I mean, you could call him up, in a couple weeks, and he'd probably be fine pretty quickly in my estimation. So I don't know. We'll see what they do, but I have a feeling I'm going to be mad about it.
Yeah, I think the reason why we get innings at Toledo is just to get innings, period, just for the year, not necessarily because I don't think he would just as a punishment, or necessarily don't think that he's ready either. But I think they want to see what they have with along the lines of like what they can do with Montero. Even I think what's going to happen is I think the Wilmer Flores experience is going to be over soon, because I think that if Flores doesn't come back and doesn't be effective, who knows what I'm not saying necessarily move away from him or what have you, but he goes lower on the priority list. And that's where what I struggle with is the next wave of hitters, where they're going to come from, because you look at like you said, you were mentioning earlier, yes, they have a bunch of short second basemen. Chris was mentioning this earlier. Bunch of second basemen they can do with. Okay, so now you have Dingler. Dingler is actually making himself a case be known. So you trade Carson Kelly for what? A bag of balls, essentially, because that's the kind of work he's out there for. So then but then you look at West Michigan and Lakeland. I mean, Lakeland has McGonigal, Clark. They have a couple guys that you can look at, but the one thing that I saw at West Michigan this weekend that was really alarming to me was even like guys like Mac Anderson and these guys that it wasn't pretty. I'm not going to mince words here. It was one of those things where I was watching the game and there was a lot of short at bats, but the pitcher they had, the Wisconsin's pitcher was, I mean, he kind of reminded me of King Felix in a way. He had a kind of similar setup and everything. He wasn't even throwing a changeup that much, as Chris was pointing out, and he was just fastball, slider, and just a lot of like maybe one hard hit ball. And they had Graham playing center field, by the way. They had Graham playing center field, not because probably injury wise, but I don't know. It was grim.
Yeah, I mean, we know, no surprise, right? We know there's no bats there. It's pretty much Hao-Yu Lee at Erie. Maybe some help from a Trey Cruz or a Gage Workman, but or Holton. Maybe Myers figures something out too and takes the next step. I mean, but there's nothing. Hao-Yu Lee is the only one above A-ball right now that I really feel like, okay, until you get to AAA, like this might be a starting player who can really hit. Jung. Young, I feel the same way about, like kind of close. There was some really good data from someone at Baseball America today about, kind of going through like all the different breakdowns, like where he was against left-handers and right-handers, in zone, out of zone, his chase rates, all that stuff, had it all broken down. There's a pretty good article about, kind of up and coming prospects who might make an impact. And, it kind of fit what we've been talking about. Everything looks good. There's just a little bit more swing and miss in the zone than we would like. So, I mean, we know the Tigers are not going to find like magically a whole bunch of offense coming out of the system in the next year. It's just, not very likely. Young might be kind of good. I would kind of expect him to be more like Keith in a way, like probably more home runs because he gets more loft and pulls more balls in the air, but it also isn't going to hit for average or kind of put together the type of at bats that Colt is already. So, there's not a ton of help there, but you can pitch people to death. You don't need the world. You got Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green. That's two, of the, I don't know, 15 best hitting outfielders in baseball right there. You look around the game, there's just not that many juggernaut offenses out there on paper. Cleveland's scoring a ton of runs, but if you go through guy by guy, there aren't very many that scare you there. It's just all put together well. They're pinch hitting well. They're stealing bases. They're hitting and running. They're having a good old time playing some old school ball in there.
Good defense.
Yeah, they've got a plan, to make something like that work. The Tigers don't need like Pete Alonso and Trey Turner to like have any shot. It's not that dire, and they don't need to go crazy, right now either, because we do want them to continue to build the farm system. We want Scott Harris and Metzler and Mark Connor to have their input and build the system from the ground up and all that stuff. I'm not opposed, to pretty much holding off on trading, anybody important. That's fine by me. But man, you got, where are the wins around the margins? Like, where are the small details? These are the kinds of things that a Scott Harris always sells themselves on. Like, oh, I'm not going to make big moves. We're not going to make big signings, but, we're going to find advantages here and small edges here. And that's what, I don't see a bit of it this year really at all. And you can do that kind of stuff, you can at least try.
Yep.
I don't think anyone here expects to win a World Series next year right off the bat. So, maybe you do have to trade Tarek Skubal if you can't get him to sign an extension. But it all compounds itself, because why would Tarek Skubal want to stay here when you're not even trying? If I'm Tarek Skubal, I'm like, well, you only get so many bullets in this thing. Send me to New York or LA where they actually are trying to win, and, let me have the prime of my career there. Or you guys do something, show me some interest. I see, Truist Park is just packed to the gills. They're making plenty of money. That's how it's done, Chris Ilitch. Put a good team, like in Detroit. You don't even have to put a great team out there. You put anything worth watching, we'll pile in and be all about it. So I don't know. I don't understand the total lethargy that seems to be coming out of this organization in a lot of ways. They're taking a long time to address issues on the field. They're not making many moves. Scott Harris has made a couple of small trades. The Flaherty signing was good. The Lorenzen signing was, solid. And then, you signed Boyd. Now we have Kenta Maeda for 2 years. Like, it's not real impressive so far, I have to say.
Well, I will say this. First and foremost, Matt Broder, thank you for being a member of our Tiger Minor League.
Oh, Matt. Right
yeah.
on.
Yeah. So you can join up, by the way, for a few bucks, and it just allows you to support the podcast in one way, shape, or form. So thank you for that. But there's one thing that I noticed down at the ballpark versus before. There's a lot more younger guys in khaki pants in terms of like scouting people around that. And that's where it's kind of like the alarming thing to me, at least in some cases, where it's like I think Hinch is doing what he can with the lineup he has, and people who blame Hinch, what are you going to do? Yeah. This is the talent he has, and so
you are lucky to have AJ Hinch.
Yeah,
here.
And there was something that Mike Valenti said that really pissed
me
off.
I keep waiting for him to bail. Yeah.
There's something that Valenti said that really pissed me off. And he was talking about Kirk Gibson saying having more patience with the farm. And Valenti saying, well, the hell with that, blah, blah, blah. First and foremost, I understand where Valenti's coming from. But you also don't watch baseball, you total idiot. And tell him his face, because here's why I think that. One, there are with all this complaining we're doing right now, or not complaining, but looking at it objectively speaking, there has been small. You got Kerry Carpenter, you got Winfield Perez, you got Colt Keefe. You're actually getting something from the farm. Is it enough to where you're getting progress? You're getting something from the farm system you haven't gotten in like a decade plus. You're getting multiple contributions. So I don't know. Be patient, because I understand where Kirk Gibson's coming from, because they're still developing. You see changes in compost right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing what you're getting with Hao-Yu Lee. There's certainly Trey Cruz is another example. There's something to be said about that. As an organization overall, farm system is, I think, among top 5 teams over 500. So there's something there. But the aggression of the front office, the sometimes like maybe they're just like going, hey guys, you're the ones being impatient. Not really. I mean, we're talking about we're 12 weeks into the season, and the Tigers are just, getting above 500 in a division where you're going to see the Royals make one of the biggest turnarounds and 1 year turnarounds in league history that hasn't been over 100 years. So I understand why Tiger fans are going, come on. But I think Valenti's a jackass for saying it in the first place. Anyways, if you're not paying attention to his team if you don't see that part at least.
Yeah, I mean, the Royals traded a reliever and got Cole Reagans last year. So your move, Scott. What can you get for Jack Flaherty? Other teams pulled these things off. You can't expect that every single move or whatever. But you're selling. The whole selling point here is that these guys are smarter than everyone else. That's literally what they're saying to us. Like, we're not going to outspend everybody. We're going to bring a really smart team in here. we're going to boost our development staff. We're going to boost scouting. We're going to boost, science and technology and the research department and all this kind of stuff. And we're going to out compete teams that way. But I just don't really see all those, I don't see any of those edges, really forming around the margins yet, where it looks like, yeah, we're we've been better at developing pitching, but I still don't know that we're like elite at it. We're good. I think we're good at developing pitching, but I can't really say you're great when we don't have a single reliever throwing 99 out of the pen. You would think certain things that you see in the Dodgers and the Braves would have started to come to light a little bit more for the Tigers in some of those regards, where guys are coming out of the farm system and you're putting them to work and finding the right role right away. This is also a time when more prospects are taking longer, at least hitting prospects are taking longer to get ready. And that's also something we have to keep in mind, because I don't know, maybe Spencer Torkelson next year is good. I'm not going to bank on it. I don't want to put everything into that, but you look at, like the young hitters, and they should keep getting better. I think more now than ever, it's really hard to be prepared for this. And when you get to the show, it probably does take, 3 months just to kind of like, get your bearings at all. So I still have tons of faith in Colt Keith. I'm sure a lot of people, who didn't watch him in the farm system don't feel the way I feel about him, but I'm like, okay, we're locked in at second base, or we'll pumped him to first base because his defense isn't that good, whatever it is, but there's a bat for you. So I don't feel the situation is bleak. I just feel like the Tigers are telling us almost that it's bleaker than it is, in an effort to like both tamper expectations down after building them up, all preseason, like with all their advertising. And we can go back 2 years to all the rebuilds over from Chris Ilitch and all that kind of stuff. And now here we are again, like, just milk toasting our way through this thing and eating soft bread, to keep our old teeth from cracking, just trying to stay alive for a little while longer and earn more time for the farm system. I'm not very thrilled. I want to see them do something, and it can be small, but I do need to see like them win some trades and prove to me that this is, a viable thing, that they're actually going to be smarter than other players and going to get, going to make those moves and out deal people. Because right now, I don't really know what to bank on. Most of the improvements in the farm system came before Scott Harris got there. And, he's bulked up the system and all that kind of stuff. But, he kept Menzin. He kept Sartori. He obviously wasn't totally dissatisfied with the state of the organization. And, so what are we doing?
They did a really good PowerPoint presentation. I'm not really sure which
they
blew him away, no doubt.
Yeah. Chris, what do you want to add before we moved on?
Nothing, that you guys haven't really covered. It feels like, as fans, people tend to have kind of the lifespan of a mayfly, right? Like we want everything immediately because we're going to die tomorrow. And the Oregon front office is operating on like geologic time.
Right.
It just, if they're like, yeah, we're about 5 years down the road, we'll really start to crack this thing open. It's like, come on, like there's got to be somewhere in the middle, right? Where just some signs of progress at the big league level would help. And honestly, you know what? A lot of this really does just come down to Spencer Torkelson not playing well this year. If Torkelson had taken the step forward that everybody was projecting and hoping for, people were like, I think he's going to hit 40 home runs this year. And it's like, well, how about 4? Yeah. And that's just the tough thing about baseball. Sometimes your young players don't improve. Sometimes they don't work out. And that has caused a pretty huge issue. Now you could argue they should have had a better backup plan, but I don't know. It's kind of tough to have legit backup plans at every position.
Yeah.
You should be better than what they have. But I mean, Canna is kind of a backup plan at first base, right? And they're playing Ibanez there. So I don't know. They could have done more, but
and the offense has kind of been better without him, honestly.
Yeah. So
there's so the analogy, and then Tyler, we're going to get to Tyler's question. We're going to take a quick 30-second break, but because Tyler's question is a really good one, and we'll answer that question, then we'll get in the system beforehand. But we'll go into Toledo or what have you. But what the Tigers remind me of, if you go to 7-Eleven or you go to any type of convenience store, you have that one person in front of you that is checking every single lottery ticket they've owned since 1975. For whatever reason, you just have a Slurpee or some just drink. You have one drink, or you just want to get a pack of smokes, or whatever the case is. But you have that one person who's going to check, instead of using the machine that's right there to the left and convenient, that guy is going to the clerk and making sure that they're checking every single one because they're too lazy to use the barcode and check that out. And that's what the Tigers front office is doing right now. They're checking every player thoroughly instead of just using ulterior methods to expedite the process. Okay. That's what the Tigers are right now. They're the old guy in the lottery at the convenience store, checking their lottery tickets and taking their dear sweet damn time. And that's, I know,
and that goes back to the being smarter thing. Like they're supposed to see this faster than other people and not need to just like move everybody up a level, and then they move up to this level, and we give them a year, and we give them a year, and we bring this guy up, and he gets a year. You're supposed to know in advance. You know, you're supposed to be trading away the guys that aren't going to work out in advance when they're still prospects and have value. You know, if Justin Henry Malloy doesn't turn out to be a pretty good hitter, well, they screwed up because they didn't trade him this offseason. You know, those mistakes of omission where we don't see it because nothing happened, but it's like you just let that value turn over. Whatever was there, you let this guy, you know, kind of age into the major leagues without really ever doing anything. And he was more valuable back then. And it's your job. That's the fundamental part of the front office is to get the most value out of your guys, you know, and extract the most value out of other teams. If you don't know your team better than everybody else does, how the heck are you going to figure out who on their team you need to get, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if you're not thorough enough, you're going to miss that $2 winner, and it's going to cost you $2. And the Tigers don't want to lose $2 at this point. We'll be right back after this quick break. Join us Sunday, July 14th, for the 7th annual Tigers Minor League Report MLB Draft Show, hosted by Chris Brown and Rogelio Castillo, with special guest Matt Broder of Woodward Sports and Locked On Tigers host Scott Bentley. Who will the Tigers draft at pick number 11? Will the Tigers pick cause further frustration on waiting for the future? Show will be starting at 7 o'clock and will be going live until 9:30. Tune in on the Tigers Minor League Report YouTube channel on Sunday, July 14th for all the draft coverage and more. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel today. So, that being said, let's get on to what happened in Toledo. And Chris, you looked amused there for a moment.
Oh, just checking Twitter while I was waiting there. Toledo, rough week against, I've talked before about like Kansas City doesn't have a great farm system, but they're playing well in AAA. I believe Omaha is the Kansas City farm system still, right? Yeah. Yep. They really put it to Toledo this week, unfortunately. But, you saw some the usual stuff from Jace Young, bunch of power, bunch of walks, kind of what you're used to lately. You know, one of the things we've talked about a bunch about that end zone swing and miss rate. Somebody in the Discord asked, have we been able to track that month over month? So I looked it up, and it was 29% end zone whiff in March and April, and it's been down to 20% the last couple months. So that's good progress there. The only issue is that he is getting fewer and fewer pitches in the zone now. Pitchers like, don't throw it in the zone. So they're trying to get him to chase. So that's, I think, explains a lot of the walks. That was he was the big producer down there. Torque kind of continues to struggle against velocity. He's a couple hits against 93 mile an hour plus now, but still, and he's not seen a ton of it. It's probably, 1/3 as much as you'd see in the big leagues, but still not doing a whole lot against it. So still waiting for progress there.
Yeah, I there's one thing I watched Omaha, by the way. Omaha doesn't really have, as far as prospects go, they have maybe a couple. I don't even think they have a top, like it's majority of their guys are in AA. So that they're doing anything well. But the biggest thing I noticed too, like the reason why I was bringing up Andrew Navigato, I know, Brandon, please don't kill me about this, but
no, it's fine. I just, we're all doing the same, job of like trying to cool people off.
Yeah, no. And look, I'm saying this because I see what they have with them just to give him an opportunity. That's all there is to it. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing more. He's not the Tigers' shortstop of the future or anything like that. Just the numbers indicate that at least there's something to be said there. That it's more of the advanced metrics there. They can sit there and say, okay, well, you can work with something like that too. But before we get to the pitching, I did want to answer Tyler's question about how much of a leash do we give Scott Harris. A lot of people are saying he has to go already, which is fully 100% bullshit. I mean, if you're saying that already, and not to sound like a elitist, but what the hell are you doing? This is like, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna give this guy that much short period of time. I don't know, but I would suggest this way: if he doesn't show any type of progress, if the Tigers are not in at least a 90 win contention next year, then next year he's on the hot seat, and you have to like this year the way depending on how the season ends. If the season ends on a high note and the Tigers win that 77, 78 games, and they have a couple of things they can go, okay, well, we made progress here, here, and here. Okay, cool. But if they made no progress, then next year is going to be under he should get a lot more crap.
3 years seems pretty good to at least like kind of be threatening as a contender, because it's not like they started off with nothing. He didn't collect any of these players.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to say he would have 4 full years. So you've got this year and the next 2, and if nothing has happened by the 4th year, then it's probably time to move on. Now it depends on how you define, something happening. If they're, if at the end of 2026 they're like an 85 win team, but they also still have like a top 5 farm system again, and like things are looking up and they're developing, and then you might keep them around. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's kind of. I wouldn't say we're at like a tipping point or whatever. We're just coming up on his 2nd draft,
right?
So you got to give him a little more time,
right?
But yeah, it's I understand the frustration. But as Al Avila got what 7 years, and that was he had the benefit of competing or trying for 2 years and then tearing it all down in the middle, and then going for another 4 or 5. So, I guess it was more like 6 years, whatever. Yeah.
That's true, but we also couldn't tolerate that again because
I don't think
that was terrible, and he did nothing for most of that time. Really.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the big thing there was it looked like they had taken that step forward, and so then they spent, and then they were completely wrong, and now you're saddled with Javi Baez, and you gotta. That's the thing. Like, you just have to make the right decisions. Doesn't necessarily mean spending money. You can that people want that helps, but you can build teams in a bunch of different ways. You just have to make a bunch of good decisions.
Yeah,
and those haven't seemed to have been there yet.
Yeah, I mean, we can look around the league at like front offices that have money to spend and ones that don't, that are both successful. And I just think it always comes back to, they win more trades than they lose. They're building their organization well. So those are the 2 things that maybe we'll see Scott Harris do and will take time to play out. But all those teams put together a good bullpen every year. They don't wait when something's not going well with the bullpen. They get help and they put together a bench. It's those marginal things that you can control every year that don't require long-term investment or, trading high-end prospects or any of that type of stuff that he's got to at least prove he's successful at before I'm going to be real interested in giving him like, a longer leash. And of course, no one cares what I think. Chris Illich's timetable might be way longer than ours is. Chris Illich might be waiting until he's 85 like his dad did before he finally starts taking this dang thing seriously. But, from the moment I started like screaming at them to replace Osmus with Gabe Kapler, just so that he could build the player development system as the manager of the team, whatever it takes to get some, these people in here. They didn't do any of that stuff. And it just took so long before they finally realized that they didn't have the solutions internally. And I don't want to wait again, 5 or 6 years until we're like, oh, well, this isn't working out.
Well,
you just see signs of it working out by next year, at least signs of it working,
Well, what you're seeing now is you're seeing things like that pop up. Like I got invited to Tigers therapy spaces on Twitter. And so props to at Lane Detroit, and he's got a couple of people that co-host that. And at first I'll be honest, at first I was like, oh man, what is the venting about? And then I heard it and I was sitting there listening to it. I'm like, okay, you know what? Not just a giant bitch session. It's just they bring up some good points. Mm-hmm. And so that is a result of why people perhaps are thinking about Scott Harris in that regard. Some of it is kind of like, hey, okay, pump the brakes a little bit. But some of it's like, you can't argue the logic a little. You can't argue it. Fans have a right to be frustrated because I think it's also a generational thing where a lot of Tiger fans, younger Tiger fans, have seen the Tigers nothing but good. And for me, this is just another bad stretch of baseball. I mean, for people in the chat, Sean can remember this. Watching the Tigers in the 90s is still the most god-awful stretch of baseball I've ever seen in my life. The Tigers, I think probably since during the Buddy Bell period until that 04-05 team. That's some of the worst baseball I've ever seen. Some of the, I mean, just god awful. Just nothing to look forward to. Pitching staffs were just like Scott Sanders. Who the hell is like just some of these guys are, you know, but
there was one guy who was not watching that crap.
Yeah.
And that is me.
You were playing in bands, you were doing all sorts of cool stuff, and
I was, you know, the strike really killed it for me, honestly. Like I was already like, you know, sports are just packed with roids and it's all just scumbag billionaires running everything, blah, blah, blah. And then everything just got confirmed and I was out. I didn't really come back until, 2005 or so when I started getting interested, just because the team had been so bad with Alan Trammell, my childhood hero. And that was actually what brought me back. And I just stumbled in right in time for 2006.
Yeah, you lucky, you know. That was that's most of my childhood, Walter. Just to give an indication, I graduated in 1999.
Yeah,
that's any indication of how much bad baseball I had to watch.
I loved the early 90s offenses, right? But the pitching was brutal. I will just one other thing I'll say is there is something to be said for continuity in allowing you to really get your whole system set up. One of the things we see in the minors constantly is Cleveland is just good. All their affiliates are good every year. Columbus isn't great this year, but they play exactly the same way all throughout the minors. They have an organizational philosophy, and it's just at every level. Lake County just won the Midwest League.
Akron is
about to, you know, they're I think second right now. Yeah. They play good defense. They put pressure on opposing pitchers. They work, you know, they don't strike out a lot. They walk a lot. It's, you know, like we talked before, you know, I don't think it's a coincidence that they took so many high school players in the draft last year. I think that they want to build this thing in their ideal image, and it sucks, but it might take a while. Although when players pop, like Kevin McGonigal appears to be, they can move pretty quickly because, you know, the good ones move fast. So I don't know. I don't know. I just, I mean, I think another 2 years at least before the axe falls.
Yeah, I might even go longer as far as the axe falling, but I just think that things get real hot next year if they're this team again and they just finish, 78 win team again, don't really make any moves again this offseason. At least I hope people will freak out, because that's the other. I mean, I guess if you're trying to figure out like where's the pressure going to come from, it doesn't seem like it's going to come from Chris Ilitch. The fans can only do so much without just like abandoning the team, which a lot of people are, kind of like getting into the mindset of like having to do again after trying to come back for, post COVID for, okay, here's this rebuild that we spent all this time on. And then, to find that, most of the best players were not the top picks, and, all that time tanking was pointless. If they had just built a good organization from the start and made that their emphasis, they'd probably be further along. We've watched it all play out, watched all that stuff play out. And I don't know where there's any pressure, but I do feel like they've got to do something. This year may not be the time, because right now, they kind of squandered a lot of good health. The first 2 months of the season, they probably should have won more games than they did. And that largely comes down to the bullpen falling apart. And now you got injuries. Now you got Carpenter's out, losing Hobby's obviously just a wash, whatever. But, you're missing Carpenter's bat, and that hurts them. And unless they can hold it together and keep it pretty close to 500 through the All-Star break, I would assume, we're pretty well cooked. And they'll trade everybody, and then they'll probably have a really good final 2 months of the season. It won't surprise me a bit if they do a lot of what they did last year. It's going to be really frustrating, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, so I'm trying to get to Erie, but my computer has decided to have the circle of death right now currently. So I'm trying to get back into the presentation mode, and it's taking me a minute. So I apologize for that.
Well, we can tell you that was a real rough week for Erie. I don't know if we wanted to touch on any of the pitchers in Toledo. There wasn't anything that was, terribly. Kiter Montero made 2 starts and gave up a ton of hits. I swear every time you go and check on the the game day app, and his strikeouts are perfectly located pitches, and the hits are just dead over the heart of the plate. And it's like, it's super frustrating. It's like,
I looked through all the walks over the weekend too, and they were all legit walks, of course, so there's no way out.
He's he still hasn't, I think, gone 5 innings in any start. It's kind of wild, but I didn't think Herder had one of those 30 pitch innings, so he was out after 2/3 of an inning.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about, really.
They used Lockhart out of the bullpen. Manning, I think, gave up 4 runs, but struck out 7.
Yeah, but he still gave up like 7 or 8 hits too. Just like,
yep.
I think it's over there. It's over for me anyway. I took myself off the bandwagon conductorship last year, and I'm not seeing it happening. So,
but yeah, so in Erie, they go out and they're right in the thick of the playoff race. They go to Altoona, the worst team in their division. Altoona took 4 or 6 from them in Erie a couple weeks ago, and they go and do it again in Altoona. The offense just kind of disappears outside of Hao-Yu Lee. Nobody did anything. And the pitching was solid, but again, it was the offense and their bullpen kind of collapsed at times.
Yeah. The irony
the Seawolves bullpen was not good this weekend in particular. Yeah.
No. Yeah, well, the irony was the game, I think it was Sunday or Saturday, guess who hit the game-winning home run for Altoona? Brandon effing Dixon.
No, I think it's a different guy, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Well, I don't know. Is it different guy?
I thought Brandon Dixon retired. I thought it was
I thought so too, but I don't know.
Let me see. I'm checking.
But it was funny.
I thought it was Brendan Dixon.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Well, either way, it's still be ironic if it's the same.
Yeah.
They're not the same, but the same name. But just anyway, it's just also because they did. The reason why I thought it might be Brandon Dixon is because Dustin Peterson plays on that team. And that guy was on the 20-man roster not too long ago.
Right, they're annoying because they've got all those they've got a bunch of veteran guys there. They kind of stacked it because they don't have the prospects. But
classic Altoona.
Brendan Dixon, but it's even more annoying because he was only hitting 202.
Okay.
So that was a game they gave up 7 runs in the final 2 innings to lose 10-7 or something like that. 10-8. Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah.
Now they're down 2 games out with 6 games to play. They're at Somerset. The Yankees usually have a very good Double-A team. They're not. I don't think they're great this year, but it's a tall order for them to get in the playoffs again. There you go.
Yeah, they need to win like 5 or 6 probably.
No.
Yeah, and there's one thing. I mean, thankfully, you don't have to run into Garrett Cole, who's going to be coming back, I believe, this week. Yeah. So, there is. I will say I do like what I'm seeing from Wakil Hernandez. He's been pitching better as of late. Same thing with Melton, who sounds like he's been kind of able to figure it out a little bit. But the lefty, was it
PJ Poulin?
PJ Poulin, ERA under 0.50.
Yeah,
he's been really good. Yeah,
he's an interesting one for sure. I'd be curious if he gets bumped up. Maybe they bring Magno back down because he hasn't been pitching terribly well in Toledo, unfortunately.
Later with the comment of the night, though, and I do like what he said right here. I mean, he said, "This is what Scott Harris was brought here to do. 500 is what Chris Ilitch wants. That is the goal." So he's pulling, in other words, Jerry Reinsdorf.
I just find. I mean, I guess we can say that you'd like to think that Chris Ilitch has at least a little bit of business sense and knows that if you have a good team, more people come and you make more money. But
yeah, they want to win. They want to win. They just don't want to spend any money.
Yeah.
So
it's not like they're not trying or that they don't care. I'm sure Scott Harris and Jeff Greenberg coming up under Theo. Like, these are all competitive people. They want to win, but I can't argue with Larry that Chris Ilitch probably is content to just, as long as the park is filled, as long as we're selling tickets and things are going okay, I don't really care. And that's probably for the best. Mike Ilitch didn't do Dave Dombrowski any favors with his meddling, just like cut the checks and shut up. So we'll see. But I understand, that idea about it too, that, Scott Harris is some kind of plant, brought here to just, but that's just not the way this works. Like, everybody wants to do well in their job. Everybody wants to win. It's just that Chris Ilitch isn't going to put any additional resources into it beyond what there is. And, whether they can do anything as is in those conditions, I don't know.
As far as if Hao-Yu Lee is the real deal, I think he is by far. I mean, I think there's one thing that I've noticed about him is that he's always had his bat is a lot quicker than it was advertised.
Yeah. And
as far as like just making really good hard contact, it was trying to get some data for the guys too. It's a lot of stuff was over 100 plus.
And he adjusts, he can, if he's set up to hit something inside, he can still drive the ball to the opposite field. We've seen him pull pitches that are on the outer edge. he just seems to be in a really good hitting position and to have a pretty good idea what he's trying to do and what the pitcher is trying to do all the time. And he's super young. He's still really young. He's not much older than he's like 3 months older than Roberto Campos, and he's dominating, the Eastern League. So, I assume there will be some struggles at some point, and maybe they'll move him up to Toledo at the mid-season here. I think they should. And I could see him, maybe having some trouble there, maybe having to adjust. But he looks to me like he's on a pretty quick trajectory to get to Detroit by next year.
Yeah. He's.
I don't know where you're going to play him, but
Yeah. Well, he just is an aggressive player. Like I think he plays kind of a like I don't know, not necessarily like a red ass, but like he's taking extra bases. He's busting it out of the box every time. Like there's a lot to like there. I don't know if there's any like true plus tool. He's certainly hitting for plus power right now. I made kind of compared him to Isaac Paredes in Double-A because they're kind of the same body types and pull power and stuff like that. But he's hitting for a lot more power than Paredes did in Double-A. Paredes was just elite with making contact. It was like a 4% swinging strike rate, and Hao-Yu Lee is like 11%.
Yeah,
but you take the power right now if you can get to it, and
Paredes wasn't as aggressive, obviously, at all. Yeah.
And I think, there's a lot to like there. I think he could be a perfectly competent second baseman. I do like we talked about it before. It's a bit stretched at third base just because of the way I think he has to kind of like amp up to throw. But I would try him. I think he's a better candidate for third base than Young.
Yeah. So, I will say that he does have at least the lateral movement to do that, but he does have to wind it up a little bit to throw. He's just a little wild on there when he throws the ball. And there's one thing, Chris, I wanted to mention before I forget is that he did say that one of the things he worked on in the offseason when we talked to Lee is being more aggressive and running with more balance because he felt like he was off balance. He ran last year out of control, which led to he was talking about how it kind of led to his injury a little bit.
Oh, yeah. No, there's probably some conditioning element to that too, like you take changes in conditioning, not that he's not working at it or anything.
Yeah, he's been one of the very good stories in the system this year.
Yeah,
for sure. So,
yeah. So
unfortunately, not much else with that offense down there. We thought maybe Workman had a breakthrough. No, that does. We're going on a 40-game stretch here, hitting under 200.
Yeah. Trey Cruz still looks like he might be a useful 26-man someday, but not an impact player ever. So there's not a whole lot else meat on the bone here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the Sam saying that Cruz looks like a legit shortstop now is the only thing that's kind of perking my ears up from last week. Other than that, I mean, it's he and Workman they're just too inconsistent. They can get really, really hot and then it goes away for months at a time.
Yeah, and you really have to break down like who they're hitting,
Yeah.
So
we were down in West Michigan on Saturday. It was good to see Dan and Nate out there, and Emily Walden was out there too. So Emily was doing an article on. She's out there for Ham as well. We saw John Moore, who we've talked to a couple times. Shout out to John coming by, honestly, West Michigan was in this game until the 8th inning, and then Wisconsin decided to flex, and they flexed big time, and they were hitting the ball like just. It was a grand slam in the 8th or 9th. It was the rehab. It was the difference. Of course, we talked about Crouch getting ejected earlier, but Jaden Ham. Weak contact, and he did again pitch well against an extremely talented team. Was able to keep I don't want to say he single-handedly kept the team in the game, but he basically did. No, it's true. He did say that. There wasn't a lot of hard hit contact. I think it was Soretti hit a ball to right. I can't remember, or was it Soretti I think it was Soretti hit a ball to right. Beyond that, there was not a lot of hard contact. He has been playing center, like Chris mentioned here in the slides here. The WRC plus 116 from Graham. He's been playing some center field, but beyond that, we still have no word on Pacheco or Jenkins is what's going on with him. And didn't Gold have an error too, Chris?
I don't think he had an error. Anderson had what I considered an error, but was ruled a hit. Six of Ham's hits were infield hits that probably shouldn't have been. That a big league defense makes the play. Max Anderson, I don't know, man. He didn't look good on defense. He's kind of has the same sort of foot speed as Jace Young, but was also like, so it took him a while to get a ball up the middle and then rush to throw because he had to, and it was like 10 feet wide of first base. It didn't look great.
No. We'd already thought of him as a first baseman, but he's not going to hit enough to do that either.
Yeah, it didn't look great. We didn't see a ton of good at bats at all. I think they had 4 hits in the game we saw. Right, it was Stevenson had a kind of a line drive single up the middle.
He and Johnson were on base a few times, but they couldn't get anything going.
Yeah, and Graham had a double, I think, but yeah, it's just Raj mentioned it earlier. There's nobody on that team that was hitting over 250 in that lineup. I mean, Campos had the day off, and he had a kind of a week off, if you will. It was a rough week for him. So it's just tough. There's not many bats down there, and the guys that were kind of carrying the offense are all hurt.
Yeah.
They didn't put Turney on the 60-day IL, which is good news, I guess, but he hasn't played in like 3 weeks. So
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, we were there to see him, and he didn't disappoint. I don't think he had his very best stuff. He was, and again, the ump was bad. He missed
terrible
at least half a dozen calls in the corners, and but Ham was really working the fastball up, and then he would drop the curveball at the top of the zone, and the Wisconsin hitters couldn't do much against it. I don't know how successful that will be in other levels, but yeah, his slider and changeup weren't really working for him. So he kept him in it, like Raj said. It was a pretty impressive outing. He fought through, I think, the 4th inning, and then came back and it was like a 8-pitch 5th, something like that. So
there was
3rd and 4th.
It was a very efficient. I mean, in terms of like getting, it wasn't like he gutted through it. I thought he did a pretty good job of getting himself out of trouble. But yeah, I'm sorry. It's just one of those things where it was brutal. It was the Bones would say, and I felt like Dan. I know Dan was like, "Hey, you guys been out here for a while, and outside of circumstances out of control,
you're like, you got nobody I want to see, Danny."
No, it was. By the way, the human cannibal is fantastic. The after the post game fireworks and all that stuff. Dan was mentioning. He goes, Roger, it looks a lot harder. And when I looked at it afterwards, I was thinking, like, yeah, that is. I wouldn't be able to have the balls to shoot myself out of a cannon.
Yeah, I wanted that human cannonball to come from center field, but he came just past second base. Still, it's like 180 feet shooting through the air. I give him credit for doing that. But the minor leagues,
but also some other attributes. Like
it's an interesting setup too, man, because they have like 6 giant poles that are wobbly as hell with a net, and they're all kind of braced with trucks.
Yeah,
and it's like, what's going on here?
You're at the carnival ride with your first little like 11-year-old girlfriend, and you notice like some screw is loose on the Ferris wheel or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was too. Because it took like 10 guys to put up the poles, right? So they put up the poles, and like the poles like barely like staying supportive, and then like there's one big dude, just some big promo guy or grounds crew guy just comes up, and even the guy who does the entertainment, Andy had to come on and help out. So, but on the front here, what's up, Brandon?
Okay, we got a bunch of Peyton Graham chat. So there's just not a whole lot to say. Peyton Graham's 23. He was the 2nd round pick in 2022 when they took Chase Young. He barely played kind of last year because of a bunch of oblique injuries. So I was still like kind of curious to see what would happen. He's twitchy. He's fast. He has power for being like a skinny little beanpole like I used to be. And, he has like all the physical ability to play shortstop. And so he's going to remain like at least vaguely interesting, but he hasn't hit at all. And he's an absolute wild man at shortstop who might, throw it into the 3rd row and then make like the best diving play you'll see in weeks, and then throw another one away. It's I don't know. It's just abject chaos with him right now. I don't really, I don't see a whole lot of control or him, necessarily improving that much. He's got really good plate discipline for that level, but there's still a lot of swing and miss, and he hasn't been able to get to any of the power. He's probably going to get like another year, but he's basically rapidly moving into like Workman type territory where it's like, oh, there's all these athletic skills and there's some tools that we like, but there's no sign of him putting it together. Okay, on to Lakeland. Let's go.
Yeah. By the way, you know what though? There's before we move on to Lakeland though, there's one thing. Okay, there's one thing I do want to address in something. It just dawned on me on something. So the actor who played Moonlight Graham, Frank Whaley, who was in Pulp Fiction.
Frank Whaley.
I think his name is.
He played the
There's
younger.
also
Moonlight
Robbie
Graham.
Krieger. Robbie Krieger from the Doors.
Oh yeah, good call. I forgot about that.
He was in that movie with Jennifer Connelly where they were trapped in Target.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah.
Yeah.
That
was. I think that was a. Was that a?
John Hughes.
Yeah, that was John Hughes movie.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you guys a question here because, all right, because now I have to do it because I'm just committed to the cause here. All right. So I'm gonna put this up right now.
You never meant to get things all messed up with Mr. Wallace. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. What did he say? He goes,
say what again?
You say no. He goes, I didn't catch your name. My name is Pip. My favorite lines.
You're not getting out of this.
Yeah, you're not getting out of this. Is it? Yeah. So anyway,
paraphrasing for profanity and clarity.
Yeah. we really, we can't really. It's not safe to say. What was it? But anyway, so I'm gonna post a picture in here of. I'm delaying for time because I was trying to find this. Okay. This is.
Oh.
Okay, that's Frank Whaley playing Moonlight Graham. All right. Yeah. So now let's go to Peyton Graham.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, you're right.
Dude, Peyton Graham looks like young Moonlight Graham. You can't.
Wow, he looks exactly like him.
Yeah. Like, hold on. Let me. So you can't see this there.
I know. I'm just playing. Yeah, he does look a lot like him. Same build.
Chris?
Yeah. Oh, it didn't pop up for me for a while. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they're two skinny white guys.
All right. Anyway. All right. Sorry. I started wasting everybody's time on that one. All right, let's go to. Yeah. All right. We got to be entertainment. They speak English and what? Yeah. Don't forget about Brett. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go to Lakeland.
All right. I want to go watch Pulp Fiction right now. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
So Kevin McGonagall is human. He came down for 20, but it's okay. I mean, they control their own destiny, and they are just a half a game up of Clearwater, and they play at Badenton this week. So this is gonna be a good series for them to clinch the first half of. Max Clark, I saw a stat. I think it says May 1st is hitting over 300, WRC plus over 120, something to that effect.
Yeah.
The Valencia Brookman combo, that definitely sounds like a your future backcourt. They're doing pretty well. And Patrick Lee, who they signed last month, is that right, Chris?
Yeah, out of the Frontier League, I think.
Yeah, center fielder.
Right? Yeah, looks like he's starting to settle in a little bit nicely.
He is. He's been a nice addition for them. He's really fast. He's a quality defender, and he's putting together good plate appearances now. So that was nice to see.
Some good starting pitching from the Flying Tigers, although I was concerned that Castillo did not play. So hopefully everything's okay with that.
It was a very weird week. We kind of hinted at it last week about weather.
They got rained out 5.
Yeah,
well,
Tuesday was rained out.
Yeah.
The scheduled doubleheader on Wednesday was rained out. The doubleheader on Thursday was rained out. So then they played an actual doubleheader on Friday, one game on Saturday, and a doubleheader on Sunday.
Yeah.
And yeah, they had to pull out the 2 games on Sunday to stay in first place, which was kind of impressive. But 3 games left now, I believe, in the first half for them to clinch this. And as we were talking about before, like we think that they're keeping these guys together for this. So if McGonagall and Clark are going to move up, or one of them is going to move up, it wouldn't be a shock if it happens in the next week or so. Yeah, maybe 2 weeks. But even with McGonagall's like down week, he had a down week last week too. But it's not like suddenly he's striking out a bunch. It's just
he wasn't striking out. He just popped a few balls up more than normal.
Pop ups or ground balls to the wrong spot. He's still yoking the ball. Like when he had a couple 106-mile-an-hour liners the other day, and then that home run later. It was it's fun to watch. And honestly, every time I start feeling a little bit funky about Max Clark, he does something. You go, well, all right, okay. So like he hit that huge 2-run homer to the opposite field, and it was he caught a fastball up and above the zone and just went with it and drove it out over the wall to left. I'm like, well, I didn't know he had that. Like,
had a little bit of Riley Green look to that swing too. I mean, he really like dipped in there and
good call. Yeah, good call there.
Pushed it the opposite way.
I feel like he's just gonna be working on his swing for a couple of years. Like I like the skills are there. I believe the bat to ball skills are there. The eye is there. Everything else is there. It's just going to be, I think he's going to be fine tuning his swing for a while, for whatever reason. Whereas McGonagall is just like, the swing is there. He's ready.
Yeah, McGonigal's kind of like Keith. It's just like a really short, barrel directly to the ball, no matter where it is, swing. Like he's just on it.
Yeah, and he's more aggressive. Oddly enough, he's more aggressive than Clark. Clark will take a lot of strikes right down the plate, like the middle. McGonigal swings at like basically everything that's in the zone. He's going to swing it and hit it hard if he can, but he won't chase a lot. So that's more like Colt Keith's approach too. Colt Keith loves to swing in the zone and doesn't chase a ton. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and it's been cool to see Max like just going oppo a ton. Like he does a lot of different things. Like he's not the kind of player where you just keep seeing the same type of ABs over and over. He's trying to do he might be trying to do too many different things.
Mm-hmm.
But he's impressive. I mean, you can see the confidence in him as well, which might lead him astray here and there. But I don't know. I've been pretty impressed. I mean, I kind of have some similar issues with just like the length of the swing sometimes, and I don't know. He just gets real flat sometimes in weird ways and disconnected. But he's 18. Like I don't get all worried about it. It might just be, it's hard to tell sometimes because you don't know what he thought he was going to get, what he was looking for. That can lead to a funky swing now and again. But I think as he gets stronger, that swing will get more compact as well.
Yeah. I will say one of the things that has impressed me about Clark so far this year is that a lot of times when runners on in scoring position, I feel like that's when you have the ability to kind of square up the ball nicely and do something where you can get the fundamental stuff, just kind of getting the runner over or scoring a run like that. And so I think that's one thing about Clark that stood out.
He and McGonigal both play winning baseball. Like they're not playing their own baseball, like trying to be the best prospect they can be. They are really pretty good about reading the situation and trying to do what's required at it already, which is pretty cool to see. I'm sure AJ Hinch likes that when he sees clips.
Yeah, I mean, in Utah, we saw that the big 2-out 2-run homer to left. Clark also had a big 2-out RBI single on the infield, beat it out because he's very fast. So like there's all the tools are there. Like I said, it's just going to take a little while for the swing to get in order. But like he's 19 for 20 in steals. McGonigal's 13 for 14 in steals. Like these kids are running wild and playing well, and it's fun.
And they're having a good time. And yes, Clark has plenty of extra base power. It's a little bit more about whether or not he has like 20, 25 home run power. Like physically, probably yes. Will he get to it? We'll see.
So Christian Santana's been found, and he's back in the FSL.
I'm glad he's all right.
Yeah, we had the milk carton out last week.
Yeah,
it's interesting. They're playing him like he's doing a rehab stint, even though it wasn't. Like he was never on the IL. He's getting 2 or 3 at bats and then they're replacing him. So I still don't really know what happened there. I assume they were working with him on something, but he's alive. So that's good to see.
And he hit a dinger, of course.
Yeah.
And then Eddie Felix, who won Player of the Week for an impressive outing, 5 innings, 1 hit, no runs, a walk, and 10 strikeouts. Props to Stan, who sent that over. Stan sent that text to me earlier. And I'd never heard of the guy. And then we found out that he's 20 years old out of Mexico. And the Tigers don't really have a lot of Mexican prospects. I mean, in terms of like just pitching wise, correct?
Yeah, or in general. Yeah. Paredes is the only one I can really even think of who was notable the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's always hard to know. Like, it's rare to see a 16, 17, 18-year-old pitcher in the DSL and the Tiger system. Like, so you never really know who's good down there, who isn't, because they're all older than you'd like expect. So we have to wait to find out what about their stuff really until they get to the stateside. But it's also not uncommon for somebody to like dominate down there and then come up. I think Yosber Sanchez, I believe, started in maybe even Iker Weezy, were starting in the DSL and then came to the FCL in the middle of the season. So keep an eye on Eddie Felix, I guess.
Yeah, like they were pitching well and they just decided, okay, this one's ready.
That's nice.
Hello, my name is Franyerba Montilla.
I just think of stanza. It's brilliant. Or Mantequilla from Butters from that. Adam wants to know if the Seals come in and make the playoffs. They have to have some luck. They have to have some.
They can. They basically have to go 6-0 this week or 5-1 at the most, and have Akron lose. And who else is ahead of them? One other team's ahead of them right now. Unfortunate that week in Altoona probably did them in, which is a bummer because they're playing. I actually think they have the best run differential in their division, but for whatever reason that just didn't work out.
They lost Jackson Jobe, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that would have helped.
Gabe Alvarez was probably like, hey, what about the rehab start here? I mean, he's fine. It wasn't an arm issue. His arm was fine.
Yeah, I mean, and they lost some player. I think Navigado began the year in Erie as well, right? Like they lost some key teammates. So
Corey Joyce, who also hit the 60-day IL. We talked about this last week, or I think I was on Thursday. He has some sort of removal. He had, I think, something in his brain removed. I believe it was.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was like a blood issue or something like that caused a lesion on his brain that they were able to
rare
remove.
blood disease or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But it sounds like he's doing very well now, so that's good.
Oh yeah, jeez, that's scary.
But overall, I want to see Jonathan Rogers pitch, and that kind of leads into the last question of the night. That
I've got video.
You do get video of him. Oh,
yeah, I'll put it up.
All right.
It's been sitting on my phone for a while.
we also have video of the ham start from Saturday.
Yep, I'll get that up too.
So that was it. But so Deadly Ninja Bees had a question, and I'm trying to. Did you see that question you posted in there on Twitter, Chris? I saw
it was about who
Raj falls in love with a prospect. Brown falls in hate with prospects. My question is, who are some prospects that Brown is higher on than Raj or other analysts?
I don't know, man.
Softball question for you at the end here, Chris. Take your time,
is there anybody? I don't know if there's.
You think?
I don't think there's anybody I'm higher on than anyone. I don't know. Like I tend to be pretty negative about everybody. I think he's right about that. Not negative, but it's very hard to be a good big leaguer. And I think sometimes we follow these guys and see them dominating the minors and think that they can do it in the big leagues, and it's just not that easy. I don't know.
I'm higher on Troy Melton than probably both of you are. Maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
You know what? I was going through and looking at our individual rankings from the last time we did the update, and I had Melton 6th in the system, and Raj had him 11th.
Oh, okay. There's a good one.
But I haven't been that enthused with him so far in Erie, so it's like, but I do think there's some. I had Dingler 11th and Raj had him 20th. Does that count? He's been around for so long.
That's a pretty big differential.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're.
To be fair, I think. To be fair, I think I was waiting for the other shoe to drop with him because he would do this. He would do this for a couple of weeks, but I always all right. I still believe in the defense. I still think he's an effective catcher. But I was just unsure about the offense. But you know what?
And just to in interest of fairness, I had Campos 19th and Raj had him 10th. So it looks better there. I don't know. Like, there's nobody that I'm like super secret. Like the guys that I'm high on are the young guys that we've been telling you about forever. Like not forever, but for a couple weeks now. Like I don't know if that's a secret, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about guys that are like
too many times,
we're talking about guys that we like that
Jackson Holiday is cheeks.
Yeah, that cracked me up. As far as guys that are to me are like kind of like on the up and up, I guess, or like guys to look out for. For me, I this is one thing about me that's consistent. Until I see a player play a few times, I just cannot. For example, you might look at a guy like Guerrero Estevez and look at his numbers and go, cool, but that I haven't seen the guy play. So how the hell would I know? I have to look. I have to kind of take a 2 or 3 games in. And something that in prospect evaluation, like a lot of times, even with fantasy baseball, the biggest thing you see right now, props to Mike Glover, friend of the show. Big, he's a big fan of the show too. Like all these fantasy baseball podcasts get into numbers and get into, you should be excited about that. That's great. And they should. You're in an industry that you go into and pays money for like the future prospects. I get it. But for me, I've never been about that. Like I have to see a guy a couple times to make him some sort of evaluation. And I don't, if you're just scouting a scout, no offense to the great Jay Markle. I mean, Jay Markle has done that a couple times and that's his thing. I don't do that. And so, as far as like some of the international guys too, like I have to see it more. And so the reason why I'm saying this is because when I saw Vandermeer, Chris was talking about him beforehand, and then I started watching him like, okay, well, I can see why. I think it was the only one that put him on the list, right, Chris?
You are, yeah. You had. Well, let's look. There were some early on. There were some international players doing good things, and that's one that I will never I unless the Tigers get like even the top international player, I probably won't put him on the top 30 list right away.
Yeah,
because
you want to see it. Yeah,
that's like Javier Osorio was their big signing 2 years ago, same class as Briseño and Montilla, and Gill or Heel, and he's in his third season in the DSL because he isn't very good at baseball. And you got to remember these guys sometimes sign when they're 13 or 14, and things change drastically in those 2-3 years. So the guy that you give all the money to because he was awesome at 13, probably not your best prospect when he's 16. It's amazing that teams figure out how to get players at 13 and they turn out good. I'm amazed by it. But so like their big signing from the last class, I think it's Nestor Miranda. I don't think he's even played yet. I don't know what's going on there. He's not on the IL. And he was a year older, so like I'm not putting him in the top 30. I have to wait for these guys to come stateside first.
I mean, I think what I'm hearing, and I'm the same way, is like you're guided by whether or not you have something to say. Like if I haven't seen this guy, he's 18, 19, I don't even know who he's playing against. If I can't tell you anything or bring anything to the table on it, I'm probably just gonna, okay, Eric Longenhagen says he's a this, and I'll knock him down and leave it be because if there's nothing, nothing standing out, if there's nothing you can say about it, then don't try to fudge it with the numbers. And
thank you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't want to BS anybody. I mean, bottom line is this. I mean, I don't want to write clickbait articles that say two or three guys that should be drafting to Detroit right now. I've seen that somewhere.
I mean, just get ready because we're almost to draft season, and the amount of nonsense that comes out, like just everyone who wants to be a baseball writer will try to like sell someone to you or come up with some hot take that we're getting into the silly season. This is when I start to just like recoil. I'm like, I'm just gonna tunnel vision, do my work, watch the players I want to watch, in the draft and in the farm system and kind of tunnel vision it for a month or two. I think for myself, like I can get out of whack if I focus too much on the farm system. If I'm watching these guys every day, it can be so hard to see, the real changes, and you start, when you just become too minute with it. I think sometimes it's good to like not see a guy for like 2 weeks and then come back, I'm like, okay, what are we looking at here again? Because, you can just ride the roller coaster the same way a fan does with the Tigers and, sound dumb one day. And then the next day you look better and, you're not actually contributing anything when you're covering it that way. Or at least for me, you guys are so like day to day and intense. That's what would scare me. Cause I'm just kind of watching the highlights every night, skipping through a few starts or whatever. And I can't do more than that. Cause I'll just get obsessed with all kinds of problems. Like every starting pitcher, I'll be trying to like, all right, how do I turn this guy into a reliever? I just, I can just get wrapped up in it, too much.
Well, I mean, like this is the headline I was talking about. 2 Tigers that should be coming back to MLB roster. What a shit down AAA. Sorry, and that's just a headline. You telling me that you don't watch baseball?
Yeah.
Sorry, no offense or anything, but no, it's.
You had an article to write.
You have an article to write. I get it. You're trying to get clicks. I get it. There's a difference between getting clicks. I'd rather have clicks that are quality over quantity. And that's what I've learned, honestly. Like if there's one thing I've learned from working at Woodward Sports is what you can write good quality articles and get clicks. It is possible, ladies and gentlemen. It is totally possible. But
take some patience. But yeah, you just have to be consistent, and eventually, like the people who want good content will find you. Eventually,
yeah, that's honestly what it is. And like, it's no offense to my old site where I was full time at, but
yeah.
Anyway,
that's what it is. I run Bless You Boys, and 80% of what we do is just daily coverage for people to hang out and talk about the team. Nothing special. I'd love to write more articles, but it's just not where we're at right now. I'm just too busy. And like, so there's certain parts of the year where I block it out. Like I'll write all my stuff then, I'll do tons of studying, but then I'm not going to just, blast people with articles when they're just, screaming about the team. They're like, oh, which, AAA shortstop could the Tigers get for a small, yeah. No one wants to do that crap right now.
Yeah, I'm done writing those articles. I've done those. I've done my time with those. And unless there's something that's actually practical, it doesn't make like for example, as much as I was beating the horse with Joey Ortiz, that made sense though. I mean, in reality, even that's
a good one.
Yeah, I mean the same thing with Tyler O'Neill a few years ago.
Yeah, nothing wrong with coming up with something good, but yeah, if you're just kind of fishing because you need to write an article, doesn't work out well. Yeah.
Any more questions, Chris, on that front?
I didn't. I don't think so. I didn't see any
No,
more.
that was it for the Twitter questions.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and like I said, it's just as far as prospect, it was like I said, I take. Well, what's up?
Somebody asked if we have any idea when Briseño is going to be back, and the answer is no.
No, that's right.
No, nothing yet.
Sorry.
Knee injury could be probably at least a month, at absolute best. Probably more like 3.
Probably also after that. What did you think, Brandon? Probably late July at this point.
Honestly. Yeah, I mean, and they have no motivation to hurry him. So they're going to give him all the time in the world. Get that thing right. Don't mess with the knees, especially if you're still thinking of him as a catcher.
If you did him as a first baseman, that's even better, though.
Probably.
Nice to have Jackson Joe back tomorrow, or today, or whenever you listen to this, possibly even yesterday. So hopefully that goes well, and get another one of the top prospects going.
Yeah, and it'll be, like I said, this is the last week for Erie, the first half of the season, rather, and it'll start the second half. So the chance for the Seawolves, I think Lakeland, same thing. Or no, Lakeland's last week is next week, isn't it?
I don't know.
It's this week. They have. I think they play 3 games this week that are part of the first half of the season, and I think the other 3 are the part of the second half.
It's so weird that it's not set up around the break and the futures game and all that stuff. It's pretty strange.
Yeah. And then you know what, Sean, he just did mention it, that he did ask us a question about one under the radar September call up player not on the national radar.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, thank you. That's what. Okay, that's
Kadar Montero for me. He's still not on the national radar.
Yeah.
Dang it.
You know who that is? I'll tell you who it is. That under the radar prospect that maybe not be is whoever they pick up in a trade at the deadline. I'll just say that. I think whoever they get will be somebody that will. That's who it might be. I mean, if I'm thinking about, if I'm going really from the system itself under the radar. A guy who I think could be that's in the system right now. All right, I'm gonna take a stab in the dark on here. I'm gonna continue to.
I got one.
You got one? Okay, so I'm gonna go with. Here's my guy. I'm gonna go with Jose Dixon. He's 17 years old, and he's 17. He's hitting well.
We're talking about a call up.
Call up.
September call up.
September call up. Okay, I'm gonna go with Andrew Navigato.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think that they should have tried him now. Like, I just don't understand bringing Kreidler up when he's like missed so much time the last 2 years, and then like has like 30 ABs this year, and they're like, plug him in there. You might as well give Navigato a look. It's not like I don't have like 8 other guys in the 40 man you could cut without shedding any tears. As for me, like, I think it's going to be someone like Lockhart. I kind of feel like they might trade Holton. They might trade Chafin. Like, they might just kind of shed some of that bullpen and bring some of those guys up. So you might see someone like that come up later in the year. And maybe it is Poulon. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking along the lines of not even a prospect, but like Easton Lucas or Sean Gunther or whatever. Just a left-handed reliever to see.
Just bring Salmons up and give him a decent paycheck for a couple weeks. He's done really good yeoman's work down there.
And he throws about 8 different pitches. If you look at
it,
it was like, well, that's fun. Look at all those pitches.
Yeah, he's got a very Holton type vibe to him in a certain.
I like that Lockhart idea. I really like that. I think Lockhart has a good possibility. I mean,
maybe that's Herder that they do that with.
Yeah,
but,
Herder. I mean? Yeah, I think Herder might be up before August or before September. I think Herder has a really good chance to be up in the next month or 2.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, because I think at some point, Joey Wentz is going to have to finally be sent away.
Yeah, once and for all.
Yeah.
So as far as when they're putting last question of the night, and then we're
going to
when they're going to put Kyler. Wow, I almost put Ryan Kyler Montero in the bullpen. He doesn't have the same velocity as Maya. Like, I don't think even if he aired it out, I don't think it's that.
No, not
He's not going to be throwing 103. He might be able to touch 100 out of the bullpen.
Yeah. Either way, he's got 2 wicked breaking balls. This is more about just commanding like 2 pitches at a time. He's kind of like Reese Olson in a certain way with a better fastball, but similar problem. Like, can't just carve people up with the fastball and locate it. And so he just ends up needing lots of pitches and dumping all kinds of breaking balls in there. And eventually there's a hanger and someone kills that. And there's a walk, it's like impressive stuff intermittently and also still pretty erratic. So,
by the way, we did get a couple donations. So,
thank you.
Up the Frickers building.
Whoa,
exquisite.
Yeah, I don't know. I forgot about that one. That
I like that.
So thank you. We got a couple days on PayPal, so we really appreciate it. So we're out of here. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back on Thursday as the Tigers have greener pastures lying ahead as they take on the White Sox, and we're gonna have some fun in Rago. But watch what will happen. The White Sox will somehow sweep the Tigers. Even at 1954, it will some weird fluky magic will happen. Some White Sox
beat the Phillies.
Yeah, and it'll beat the Phillies. So thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. And also thank you for everybody. We were top 100 podcast last week again. So second week in a row that we were in the top 100 among all baseball podcasts. So thank you so much. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for the super chats or for donating. And Thursday we'll be back with Uper and no Mike this week as he's I think going to some sort of concert. Mike Gouvier will be joining us on the pregame draft show at 6:00. Him, Uper, and Mike. So we'll have a pair of mics. And I know Brandon we'll have to figure out how we're going to put you in the draft stuff, but I figure we'll have you like on for a few minutes because.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
Yeah, we'll figure. Yeah, maybe we'll have you over. Actually, we should have you over.
I can do it live because actually, that's like the draft is one of the things that my staff actually does get stoked about. So I've got Adam and Jay and David Rosenberg and some people who can handle the write ups and stuff like that. So we'll see how it goes.
You have a grill, Chris?
A grill?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. The reason I was asking so I could actually bring meat over and actually grill. Yeah. You know what I could do? Actually, you know what we could do?
Empanadas.
Draft show. We have the show outside, right by the patio of the pool. I could be grilling while the draft is going on.
In a chef's hat.
In a chef's hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, of course, if your wife is cool with that and all that.
Yeah, no, it's all it. I mean, we could do it outside
with the camera crew into Chris's backyard.
The only thing.
Like, what are you doing? What's going on back there?
The only concern about doing it out by the pool is that the Wi-Fi might not be quite as strong. But other than that,
if the people want me to dive in the pool, I'll do it. But I don't. I think I'm getting too old for that at this point.
Cannonball if they pick someone we like.
Or no, if they don't like somebody, it's belly flop right in there, and I'll take the punishment for it. But until Thursday, guys, have a good week, everybody.
You're gonna be